going on your jailbroken PS5. They kind of go hand in hand. In order to be able to use remote play on your jailbroken PS5, you need your account to be activated, and activated accounts also are able to load media applications like the YouTube application. So if you want to use another account to load the YouTube jailbreak, then it needs to be activated. And also to be able to move PS4 saves between the console and the USB drive, you also need an activated account for that as well. So I'll show you guys how to get your accounts activated and get remote play working. We'll also look at getting remote play working from outside your normal network as well, and also how to use the proper remote play application from PlayStation as well as the third-party options. So all of that will be covered here in this video. So to start with, you want to make sure you have the jailbreak loaded already with the payload manager running. If you don't have this set up to this point, then check the playlist linked down in the video description, which has all of the previous videos I've made so far, which show you how to get set up to this point. So watch the first video on how to get the jailbreak set up from scratch, if you haven't already. So at this point, what we want to do is use the Elf Arsenal payload. Now, if you don't have Elf Arsenal installed, you can simply get it installed. If we switch over to our computer real quick, you can download the Elf Arsenal payload here. We can go down and download the Elf file, and then all you got to do is simply copy that Elf file over to the root of a USB drive. So grab yourself a USB drive and copy the Elf file to the root of the USB drive, and then plug that USB drive into the PS5. And on the PS5, we want to go to Settings, make sure Scan USB Payloads is enabled, and then we can go to Manage Payloads, scroll down to the very bottom where you will find your Elf Arsenal payload on the USB drive. We can move it to the internal storage, and you can copy it to internal, or move it to internal, and then it will be available in the dashboard section to run right here. Now, we can go ahead and load Elf Arsenal here to get it up and running on the console. So we can check to see what accounts are activated by logging out of our current account. Now this user 1 account that we got from the backup file initially to get the jailbreak set up, it is already activated. So when I press options, we get the login options for busy, appear offline, login as online. That means the account is activated. This new account I created here does not have that menu because it is not activated, and you can create a new user right here. So if we log into that user account that's not activated, you'll see that if I try to load up the YouTube jailbreak, it will just tell me that I need to sign in to use network features, so I cannot load the YouTube application. And it's the same with the remote play settings. If we go into System and go down to Remote Play, we can see Enable Remote Play is not selectable. So what we need to do here is simply run the Elf Arsenal application. So you can access Elf Arsenal from the shortcuts it creates on the home page here, and you'll be able to access the web panel from here. Although this is very slow, so I would highly recommend, instead of accessing Elf Arsenal this way, the better way is to actually just access it from another device. So if we head into our settings, make sure under network that you're connected to your network, and then we can head down to System Software and Console Information, and make sure that you have a valid IPv4 address. Note down that IP address there, then just enter the IP address of the PS5 into the URL bar in any other web browser that's running on another device on the same network as your PS5, like your phone's browser or computer's browser, with :6969 after it, and press enter, and that will access the Elf Arsenal web panel directly on your other device, where it's going to be more responsive. So from here, what we can do is head down to the PSN section, and if we scroll down to the bottom, you have offline activation. You can see the user 1 account is active. It says it's activated, but the new account we just created is not activated, as it says here. So new accounts will not be activated, so their account ID will be all zeros. Now, before we go to activate an account, we want to grab the Remote Play client applications. There's the official one from PlayStation that you can download and set up. We'll look over that one as well. The main one I think you should consider using is this Chaki or Chakai NG. So basically, you can go ahead and download this from the GitHub repo. I'll leave it linked in the video description. There's the NG version and the regular version. The regular version is good for just like on normal Windows computers, but NG works across lots of different devices and is good for handheld devices too, like the Steam Deck. Go ahead and download the version for whatever operating system you're running. So I downloaded the Windows x64 portable version. and extracted it over to my computer. Now, if we go back to account activation with the Elf Arsenal, now you can activate your account using any account ID. I could even take the account ID from this one here and paste it in here and change one digit because you don't want to use the same account ID as another account that you have activated on your PS5, but I could change one letter in this account ID so it's different, and then I could activate with that and it would work fine. But there is a benefit to using a real PSN account ID from a real PlayStation account that you have access to, because then it allows you to do things like use the official Remote Play application from PlayStation on your jailbroken PS5. It also allows you to take any PlayStation 4 saves that you have on your jailbroken PS5 and swap them between any retail consoles and get them working on any retail consoles that use the same account, any PS4s or PS5s. So it does give you more options if you use a real PSN account ID. So to get your PSN account ID from a real account, there is this website that certainly used to work in the past. Maybe it still works for you, I'm not sure. It's not working for me at the moment though, where you basically type in your PlayStation account name, and then you click submit, and it should grab your PSN account ID as a decimal number that you can copy and paste into something like Rapid Tables here, where you paste it in here and convert it into the hex number, which you can then enter here and activate with Elf Arsenal, although as you can see, it just infinitely searches. So the other option is to use Chalky NG. If we go ahead and run this application, the Remote Play client for your PS5, so it will give you the option for official Steam artwork. I'm just gonna not do that just now. Remote Play via PSN, I'm just gonna say no right now. And then what we can do, it should detect your PlayStation 5 in here. It should already detect it if it's on your network. If it's not discovered, then you can click the button to add manual host and then type in the IP address of your PS5 into the host box here. And then you can simply go ahead and register on first connection and add it. And then it will appear in here and you can connect to it. So we can just double click it or click it once here. And then there is a PSN account ID field, and you can use PSN login to get the account ID. So if I click PSN login, it will take us over to our PSN login here. And then once you're logged into your PSN account, it will redirect you to this blank page where you need to copy the URL at the top, and then you can paste it in to the application here, and then click on Get Account ID, and it should grab the account ID from your profile. Now, it grabs the account ID as a base 64 string. You can basically copy that, and I'll leave a link in the video description to this converter here where you'll be able to just paste it into the input section, your account ID, and it will give you the hex version that you can then use to activate in Elf Arsenal. So I can paste that in here. Make sure you keep the 0x at the beginning, so I can paste in the account ID here and then activate, and that will activate it there on the console. So that will activate it, although in order for the activation to take effect, you do need to reboot your console. Before you do that though, you can also run the npfix sign-in. Now this is only recommended if it's a new account that you've just created. As it does say here, this could corrupt the profile, so use one that you can afford to factory reset. So it's basically saying don't run this payload on an account that you've been using for a long time, that you have a lot of save files on, because you could potentially lose it if this ends up corrupting the profile. But it usually works fine with a new profile, so because I just created this new profile and I'm signed into that profile, make sure you are signed into the new profile that you just activated, then you can run this fake sign-in payload. And what that does is it basically tricks the console into thinking that you're actually signed in to the PSN account, which will enable some features on the console that normally you don't have access to if you have the account activated but not signed then. So we can also go ahead and spawn npfake sign-in. If I click this option, it will go ahead and run it. And then you can see here it says reboot to apply on the console itself. So now we just need to restart the PS5 in order for the activation to take effect. Okay, so after rebooting the console and reloading the jailbreak, if we go into settings, system, make sure that under remote play, we have enable remote play. Make sure that's enabled on any accounts that you want remote play active on. And then from here, what we can do is if we switch back over to the computer, once we're running Elf Arsenal again, and we can connect up to the web panel, if we head over this time to the settings and go to remote play and time sync, we can generate the remote play pin code right here. So we can just generate the pin code, and this will give us some useful information. Gives us the pin code to connect a remote play client to the console. It also gives us our account ID for the Chalky NG remote play client, and also it gives us the ID. If you're using PX Play, you can get connected with either of those solutions. So for instance, if we use Chalky NG here, all we got to do is we can, of course, just click the discovered PS5 here or add it manually. And then what we want to do is enter the account ID right here. Obviously, I already have it entered from when we used this to get the account ID in the first place of the PSN account, but you can just paste in the one that is on Alpha Arsenal. You can paste it in here, but there is a bug here where you can see the last character is wrong. For some reason, it prints A instead of an equal sign. The last character should be an equal sign. Just change the A to an equal sign and you should be good. And then we can enter our remote play pin code that we have on Elf Arsenal as well, which is 19798468. And then we want to make sure that PS5 is selected. You can also enter a console pin code if you have a pin code for your account. And then we can click register. And there we go, it has been successfully registered. It also says on Elf Arsenal here that it has been successfully paired. So now we should be good. I should be able to just click it here and it will run that on the console. And there we go, we are connected with remote play. I can use my keyboard as my controller, although I can also, of course, connect the controller to my computer and use that to access the PS5. So it looks like all is good so far. We're up and running with remote play with this remote play client. And when we close it, we can put the console into sleep mode or say no to just disconnect normally. So this is a good remote play client to use. There are other options though. So for instance, you can use the official remote play application if you use the real PSN account ID to activate. So we can download it here. I'll select Windows. You can agree and download the application. And then from there, you can open it up here. This is the installer. So we'll just go through the normal installation process. So with the official remote play application, we need to sign into our PSN account. Okay, here we go. So once we're signed in, we can select PS5. As I can't find the PS5, pair manually, so we'll tell it to pair manually. So Alpha Arsenal, we can generate the pin code, and then this will give us our pin code here. Then we'll tell it to pair, pairing your PS5, and there we go, we can see it is now up and running, modded, connected using remote play, using the official remote play application. But it may look a bit laggier here, but that's mainly because I am on a wireless connection, because it was not finding my PS5 when it was connected using my previous connection, so I had to go over to a wireless connection to connect directly to my router in order for the official PlayStation application to find my console in the first place, as it was not finding it. But honestly, I think the open source alternative applications are actually better than using the official remote play application, but you can get the official one working as well, as you can see here. So moving on to the final thing to show you guys here in this video is what if you want to be able to connect outside of your network. Now, what we need to connect outside of your local network is you need to connect via the public IP address of your network instead of one of the local IP addresses, which you can get by going onto a web browser that's on the same network as your PS5 and typing in whatismyipaddress.com. That will take you over to this website where you can grab your public IP address, just copy it, and of course you can add that in, add a manual host into your remote play client, paste in the public IP address instead of the local one, and we can go ahead and I've got the console, it's already registered here, so I'll go ahead and add it from here. But if I try and connect, it's just not going to work, mainly because the ports are not forwarded, so it's being blocked on my network and it's not going to let the traffic through. So in order to be able to solve that, we need to port forward. Now you can port forward by finding your default gateway address, which you can find by right-clicking on your network in the taskbar and then going to Network and Internet Settings. And then if you scroll down to Advanced Network Settings and then Hardware and Connection Properties, it will give you your network information. And then you want to find the adapter that's providing your computer with the internet connection. In this case, it's my Wi-Fi connection here, and you want to find the IPv4 default gateway address, which in my case is 192.168.1.1. And then you can paste that into the URL bar on your web browser, and it should take you over to the login page for your router. Now you can get the login details by either just looking at the sticker that's on the router. It will probably have the login details for the router, or you can just search up online what the default login is for your make and model of router. Another good resource to use is portforward.com. Portforward.com allows you to pick a list of routers. You can go to list of routers, and then you can find lots of different makes and models of routers here. on this page, and then you can find, the same brand of router that you have, for instance, and then once you find it, you can look up a similar model to the one that you have, and then it will give you a step-by-step guide on how to access the web panel and port forward for your router, with screenshots showing you each step, which definitely helps. So it is a bit outdated, but it generally is pretty useful, even gives you the default login information. So what we can do is log into our router. So I'll show you what I do on my router to port forward, but obviously it's going to be different if you have a different make and model of router compared to what I have. So when you log into your router, if your router has your public IP address listed anywhere in there, make sure it matches the one from whatismyipaddress.com, because if it doesn't, you might be on a carrier grade NAT, which is a whole different issue where port forwarding isn't going to work, and you might have to contact your internet service provider to get them to remove you from the carrier grade NAT, so you can port forward normally. But I'm not going to get into the weeds on that here in this video. It's already long enough. So we're going to go down to the WAN section on my router here, and this is where I'll find my port forwarding, virtual server / port forwarding. We can add a profile, and I will add a new port forwarding rule, which will be PS5 RP for remote play. So this is a new port forwarding rule. We can normally just do UDP port 987, and that might work on its own, but there are other ports to forward if that doesn't work on its own. So I'll just add all of the ports here. So I'll do both TCP and UDP. We'll do 987, and then we'll also do 8572, and then we also want to do 9295 all the way through to 9304. So I can separate them with a colon, so it'll do 9295 all the way up to 9304. So open all those ports, and then the ones I'm separating with a comma are just individual ports. So that will cover all of them. You can do a separate rule for each port if your router does not give you the option to add multiple ports in one rule. And then we can go ahead and enter the PS5's IP address, which we can grab from the PlayStation 5 itself, which in my case is 192.168.1.217, and we can add it. And then we should be able to enable port forwarding, and that should hopefully open the ports to allow me to connect from outside my network through Remote Play with the Remote Play client. So now that that's applied, we can go ahead and try and connect again using the public IP address this time. And as you can see, we are connected successfully. We're now connected from outside our normal network using the public IP address, and we're able to access Remote Play. Now there is still one other issue that we can potentially run into here, and that is that if your local IP address changes on the PS5, then the ports will no longer be forwarded and you won't be able to connect from outside the network. Same issue if the public IP address changes. If you have a dynamic IP address for your public IP and it changes, then obviously you're not going to be able to reach the PS5 via the old IP address. You can, of course, set a static IP address for the PlayStation 5 in the PS5's network settings itself. What I can do here on my router, though, is I can just go into my LAN settings, go to the DHCP server section, and if I scroll down to the bottom, I can manually assign an IP address around the DHCP list. All I have to do is select the right device, which is my PS5, which is this one here, which is 192.168.1.217. I can add it, and then apply. And what that basically does is it just prevents the IP address from changing for the PS5, so it will always keep that IP address for the PlayStation 5. So that way, it will not change. So that's how I solve the local IP address changing. But again, you could just set a static IP for your PlayStation 5. But what if the public IP address changes? This isn't an issue if you have a static IP address as your public IP. But in my case, my public IP changes every few days. So what I can do is go back to the WAN setting, and I have this DDNS option, Dynamic DNS. This is something that a lot of more modern routers will have an option for. You can enable Dynamic DNS, so I have it enabled here, and then I've basically just entered a host name, which is PS5 RP for Remote Play, 7839.ethyscom.com. So I've gone ahead and applied that, which creates this domain name here that I can copy, and I can basically just use that to connect to my PS5 instead of the IP address. So now I can delete the PS5 and re-add it again, but this time I'll add the domain name of my dynamic DNS in here instead, and we'll go ahead and add it that way. And now basically what I can do is connect to it using this instead. So if I click on this one, it should still connect as normal, and now we're back up and running, connected to the PS5 remotely. But this time we are using this DNS address instead. So if the IP address changes, it's not a problem, it'll still be at the same DNS. So we can always connect to our PS5 remotely from outside our network. Now, if your router doesn't have a dynamic DNS option, there are other options you can use, things like DuckDNS, which is a free dynamic DNS posted on AWS. So effectively, you can basically create a DuckDNS address instead, which will be something at duckdns.org, and then you can install DuckDNS on a number of different devices, any device on your network that you have on most of the time, and you can use that to update the DNS with the new IP address whenever it changes, and then that way you'll always be able to access it with your DuckDNS address. You can also use Cloudflare and just create your own custom domain with Cloudflare. There's lots of different services you can use to achieve the same effect. Now, one final point here is that once the console is registered in your Remote Play client, you can restart your console, and even when you're not running the jailbreak anymore, when you're not running Elf Arsenal, you'll still be able to connect with Remote Play once it's registered and enabled, so you should be good to go there. Also, if you are using Elf Arsenal, because we have been using it a lot here in this video, I have noticed an issue when you run a PS4 or PS5 game where it just gets loading. If you go into the settings and the Sentinel Warden option, and make sure you disable the option to enable Sentinel Warden, it does require a reboot to take effect, but that should fix that issue with games not launching. If you are trying to run games while having Elf Arsenal enabled, it does get pretty complicated when you have to deal with port forwarding issues and dynamic DNS in order to connect outside your network, but if you're just connecting from within your network, it's really not too much of an issue to get Remote Play set up and running.